Greetings to all the viewers, my dear aspirants, and all the learners who are here to join me to learn a little bit more about grammar. My name is Electoli, Faculty of English at Edufy Institute, and today we're going to discuss on the topic of error spotting. Now, you might ask me what is an error spotting and what is this topic? This topic is mainly based on the pattern of questions that come in your competitive exams. That is, we see a lot of these questions, the pattern of questions on this topic, mainly in your SSC and competitive exams and even for your IBPS exams as well. Now, what are these? These are the questions that tells us about that asks us to identify mistakes in grammar. Now, what does this mean? Any type of sentences are provided to you in the questions and they ask you to identify the mistakes in the sentence. And what are those mistakes? Not just grammatical mistakes. It talks about the usage, punctuation, and spellings within the sentence. So if you find errors in the sentences, you have to identify it. So this error spotting exercise or error spotting topic is mainly to test your idea and your knowledge about grammar and your knowledge about sentence writing and speaking and reading as well. So today we're going to discuss on this topic in detail. First and foremost, we have to understand what are the common errors that we find in this type of exercises. So when I say error spotting exercises, there might be questions that there is an error to it and you have to find that error, right? So what are the errors that you may find in this type of questions? It is subject-verb agreement errors. For example, if a subject is not in agreement with the verb, that means there is an error in the sentence. And that is the skill that you must have to learn through this very exercise. And what do you do when we say subject-verb agreement error? When we see that the verb is not matching with the subject. And if the verb is matching with the subject, that means there is no error. So for example, there are two sentences given to you here. She writes well, she writes well. There are two sentences here where we have the subject, she. And she is a singular subject. As far as we know, we are talking about someone who is singular. So singular subject, she, are in both of these sentences. However, the verbs are different here. The first verb is a singular verb. The second verb is a plural verb, right? And in the case of subject-verb agreement, what do we say? That the subject and the verb must always be in agreement. That means if the subject is a singular subject, then the verb must also be singular. So in that case, which one is the incorrect statement? It is the second sentence, that is, she write well. Write is a plural verb, which cannot be written with a singular subject. Therefore, the correct answer is she writes well. So the main difference between these two sentences is the difference in the subject and verb agreement. And also the fact that the verb, it's a very small letter in this word that makes the whole difference in the entire sentence, right? So that is what we are asking you to do. When we say error spotting, it means to learn to understand the subject and the verb as well. Learn to understand that this is the correct usage of the language in a sentence. And if you are able to identify those, you'll be able to solve the questions again. Now, next one. What is another topic that you have to focus on is the verb tense consistency. What does this mean? The sentence that you're writing or the sentence that you're reading must have a clear tense. That means the time of which it is spoken or the action that we're describing must be in tune with the tense, right? So what does this mean? The verb, the action word must be in tune with the time. So let's take a look at these two sentences. It will be very clear. They visited last week. They visit last week. We're talking about they visiting what? Last week. So the time is clear. We're clear about the subject. We're also clear about the time. It is talking about action that has happened in the past. So therefore, in that case, the verb should be in the past as well. So do you find the error in this sentence? Absolutely, right? The first sentence is the correct sentence because the verb here has been used in the past form, linking to the past word here, that is last week, the past time, right? However, they visit last week. This is the base form of the verb that does not tell us whether it has happened in the past. So therefore, the error is in this part of the sentence. So this is an erroneous sentence. Therefore, what do we have to see? We also have to see the sentence and understand the time of the action and write the word according to that. If not, then there is an error in the sentence. So first, we'll have to see the subject-verb agreement. The second is to focus on the tense of the sentence and also to see whether appropriate tense has been used according to the time of the action. And if you are focusing on that, we will be able to understand what is the error in that very sentence. The next one is confused word choices. What does this mean? When we use words that sound the same but are different in meaning. And if we do that, in certain sentences, you'll find a small difference that makes a complete change in the meaning of the sentence. Take a look at this example here. Your ideas are clear. Second sentence also, your ideas are clear. So when I say your ideas are clear, it sounds the same. However, when you read the sentence in detail, you find there is a small difference, and that is the difference of the punctuation apostrophe here. Apostrophe RE, right? So that is a very problematic part of the sentence because here I'm not talking about your ideas anymore. I'm saying you are ideas. You apostrophe RE is the short form of you are. Whereas your is talking about the possession of the idea by you, right? So the main concept of the sentence is changing because of similar words. So you have to see whether there is identify whether there is similar sounding words, and if so, which means the correct one. In these two sentences, which one is the correct? In these two sentences, the correct one is this. Your ideas are clear. Therefore, this one cannot be the right answer. This is how you identify errors in a sentence. Very simple, like I said, very small errors within sentences that will be given to you that you will have to identify. And how do you identify? By understanding these concepts. Very important. If you understand these concepts, it will be easier for you to identify it. It will be easier for you to rectify it as well. Let's move on to the next part. The usage of articles is very important. A, and the are three very simple and small letters and words within a vast number of sentences, right? Now, when you see this, a lot of times we tend to glaze through it, we tend to let it go, we don't tend to focus on it since it's a very small part of the sentence. However, the usage of a and the makes a complete sentence change the meaning. That means you can change the meaning of a sentence just with the usage of a or the. We know that a or n is the indefinite article, the is the definite article. If I use he adopted a dog, then I'm talking about a dog, singular dog. For example, he adopted a dog, right? However, if I say a dog, I'm generalizing it. That means among all of these dogs, he adopted one dog. But which dog? You have no idea. There's no particularity that I'm talking about in this sentence. However, in the second sentence, I say he adopted the dog. There you find the difference. The dog. That means you and I know which particular or specific dog he adopted. Therefore, the usage of a and the has completely changed the meaning of this sentence. Therefore, if I ask you, where is the error in this sentence? According to the context of the sentence, if the context of the sentence suggests that it is talking about a specific dog, then I will have to write the dog. Specific, particular, right? However, if I am talking about dogs in general and I'm not exactly specifying which dog I adopted or he adopted, then A is the correct usage. This is what you'll have to understand when we see articles. Do not just glaze through the sentences. Also, learn to see these small things within the sentence because it changes the meaning of the sentence and the context of the sentence as well. As we move on, we also find the usage of pronouns. Very important. Pronouns. There is a lot of confusion, questions on pronouns. Why not use he? Why not use she? Right? This is why you have to understand pronouns. And when you talk about spotting errors or error spotting exercises, you also have to understand pronouns as well. And what is their correct usage? We must always clearly refer to the correct noun when we're using pronouns. Because what are pronouns? They are substitutes of a noun, right? We use a pronoun in place of a noun. So therefore, your pronoun should be in a clear relation with the noun. That means whatever noun you're using must be clearly related to the pronoun that you're using. If not, then that means it's a wrong pronoun. And through this example, you will understand this. The boy loves his toys. The boy loves their toys. All of this sentence, the parts of this sentence are correct. However, two main differences are there, his and their. The pronoun used here is, the pronouns used here is the boy is the noun along with the word his, which talks about the boy. Singular person, singular subject, therefore singular pronoun his. However, in this sentence, the boy again, however, the pronoun here used is plural pronoun. Therefore, where is the error? In the second sentence. Because the noun and the pronoun are not matching. Therefore, the error is in the second sentence. So this is how you relate pronouns with the nouns and identify the error in any type of sentences. Identify pronoun errors in any type of sentences by trying to relate the pronouns with the correct noun. If so, it will be easy for you. Let's move on to the next one. Very important. That is preposition. Preposition is a very confusing topic that we keep on coming back to again and again and again. And it always depends on your understanding and also on your practice as well. What is a prepositional mistake? When we use inappropriate prepositions for inappropriate positions or for inappropriate nouns. We pick prepositions that accurately expresses relationships. What are prepositions? They express relationship between nouns and pronouns within a sentence. That is the basic example and explanation, right? So therefore, if it is not correctly expressing or accurately expressing that relation, that means the preposition is wrong. Therefore, you can take a look at this example. We sat under the tree. We sat below the tree. Two sentences here. If you read carefully, you will find this very important difference, that is under and below. These are the two prepositions. Which one do you think is the correct one when you read it? We sat under the tree or we sat below the tree? The right answer is we sat under the tree. So these two, if you think about it, it sounds the same. Maybe it has the same meaning. But what is the difference? When I say under the tree, that means I am being covered by the tree. Okay? When I say below the tree, that means the tree is above me. So the positional difference is there within these words. That is the reason why we use under the tree. That means I am being covered by the tree rather than below the tree. That means the tree is above me, above my head, a level above me, right? So therefore, we cannot write the word below the tree. This is how we identify changes or errors in prepositions in a sentence. These are very basic examples of sentences that I'm giving to you. However, it will be more complicated in your exams. It mostly depends on various factors on exercising and learning about this error spotting exercise. And what do you do? In order to improve your accuracy in this error spotting exercises, right? You will definitely find in each exams of your grammar, especially when you talk about the English portion of your exams, you will find that around 5 to 10 questions for SSC exams, that is in the prelims, as well as for your IBPS also, you will find 5 to 10 questions. Their level increases when you go to tier 2, and also for your mains also, when you go to your mains, your level of question will increase. So therefore, it is very important for you to keep on practicing these exercises. And there are some tips that you can follow, that is, you have to read extensively. Whenever you find exercises, sentences, you will find various examples in your online sources, in your book sources also. So you have to keep on reading them extensively to understand the correct usage, and you have to practice daily. This is not an exercise that can be done in 2 days or 3 days. It's something that you'll have to keep a habit of, and that will be done through practice daily. Engaging with error spotting exercises, it will boost your recognition speed. That means every time you read through, every time you practice 2, 3 exercises, 4 exercises, 5 questions, it will become easier for you to spot those errors, and it will become a habit to you. Again, if you're unable to identify those errors, you can always go back to the foundation, parts of speech, right? When you go back to the parts of speech, the use of verbs, the use of prepositions, the use of nouns, the use of pronouns, it will be easier for you to understand the error exercises as well. You will have to focus on the nuances. What does this mean? Context of the sentence is very important. Focus on what the sentence is trying to tell us. Then only you'll be able to get the true meaning of the sentence. Next is you use learning tools such as online platforms and mobile apps that offer practice quizzes and explanations as well. If you do so, it will become much more easier for you to understand, and also you will become more comfortable and you will not be intimidated by this type of exercises. If you become more comfortable with these exercises, it'll be easier for you to solve these exercises as well. Therefore, another one is when you want to understand more about this, you can always seek guidances from your mentors, from your teachers, whoever have guided you beforehand, or maybe through online sources as well. But remember, grammar is something that is stagnant. That means it is statistic. It will not move. That means the subject itself is static. However, the understanding of it is always fluent. It will always be moving. So you will have to understand that your practice of grammar, it's similar to mathematics. We all know the formulas of mathematics, they don't change. Pythagoras' theorem has remained the same throughout the years, right? But what do we do for mathematics? We practice every day. Yes? So therefore, grammar is also similar to that. You have to practice every day, learn every day, make it a habit so that you won't be intimidated when you see grammar or English. So with this, I will end the class today. I hope it was a very fruitful session and hope you can join me in the next class. Thank you.